We're gonna go now. We got Mikai Gbayor. So hopefully I'm pronouncing this
I want to say his last name's Bayor. I think the G
Bayor.
is
Okay.
yeah. I think the G may be silent. I want to say I heard it. Now I may be wrong, and if I am, I'll humbly admit that. So don't Makai.
I think you're
Don't.
probably right.
Yeah, I want to say it's Bayor. I think the G is silent, but although I am not 100% confident in that.
So he's one of the veterans in the room. He spent 4 seasons at Nebraska, and then transferred actually to Missouri for his last year. Spent spring practice there in Columbia, and then we plucked him. And he spent 4 months at Missouri, and that's new college football. We're in check, and now
Moving
he's
company's making some money on him. Hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully he's got some buddies willing to help.
So now we got him in Chapel Hill, man. But he's a guy. He played in 12 games in 2024, 11 starts. His most productive season was in 24, 49 tackles, 6 for loss, 1 sack, 3 pass breakups, 2 fumble recoveries. But with the experience that we lost, man, in losing Power and Amari transferring, he's one of the guys that's got. There's a few guys we brought in, but he's one of the ones with up there with the most experience. So yeah. I expect him to be one of the guys that plays a lot for us. And he's more of to me, and obviously I didn't play at your level, but he's like, he brings that toughness, and he's one of the guys I think he's going to be like a really good linebacker when it comes down to run plays, like third, short yardage. We're going to see him on the field more than some of the smaller backers we got.
Yeah. And those guys can also be really productive in the pass rush game too at times, like I think there's some really cool things you can do with them. And I think something that's exciting, and I have no idea how they'll decide to show up on, that first, I almost said Saturday, that first Monday in the fall. But what's really cool is that for the last couple of decades, we've gotten to watch the things that Coach Belichick, both Belichicks, have done with their defenses in New England and everything. So, those guys find a way to get good players on the field. And like, you just trust that that's going to happen. So I'm excited to see that. And he's played a lot of football, man. And that stuff, it travels, whether you're at the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, wherever, like experience travels. He'll be able to communicate to some of the younger guys out there, make sure everything's getting lined up and going well. Like, excited to see him play. And I love his number choice in Nebraska too, if we're being honest, man. I love
that 42. Hey, yeah.
Hey, I've got a funny story about this cat, man. We were at the practice like a pro day event, and I'm up there in the blue zone. Shout out to my guy Philip. Every chance I get, I will always shout out Philip Whitfield. That is my guy. So we were up there in the blue zone, and sitting there. I just got me 2 Nathan's hot dogs. Right, I'm going down memory lane here, folks. So bear with me. But I'm sitting there just chilling, watching the Masters on the TV up there. And I look over to my right, and I notice a guy, not too short in stature, but super long hair, comes in with gym shorts, like a lanyard hanging out of his pocket. And it's Stephen Belichick. Yeah. And he's walking around with some other guy beside him that was obviously a part of, it may have been the linebacker coach. I'm not sure. But there's this mountain of a human being standing next to him, and I'm like just sitting there just eating my Nathan's hot dog, like looking up at this guy, like I visualized his face. I didn't know who it was, but I was doing some research and who was all visiting that day, and come to find out it was Mikai. So one of the things that I will say about him is he is a mountain of a human being. He definitely brings a size. If we talk about guys getting off the bus first, I'm definitely signing him up, number one. But no, you talk about him coming from Nebraska, and I alluded to and mentioned this in our offensive line breakdown, Trev. We've got a lot of guys that have played, some good snaps at all different levels of college football. Nebraska has been a program that's been up and coming here the last several seasons. But he's seen Big Ten football. He's played against high-level competition. Anytime in the landscape of college football now that you can add a guy that has not only seen big-time football in a power conference that has national championship pedigree written all over it for several years. Anytime you can add a guy like that that's had production at that level too is a win. He almost reminds me of a guy that we got from Florida State a couple years ago in Amari Gaynor. Amari played more of that outside, like what did we call it? What was it, Jack? back then, Trevor?
I want to say, and it's a Chiswick term, so Shaq, you may know more than me. I want to say it was like a jack position.
We had a
rushing
jack
off the edge.
Yeah.
So he, I could see him sort of playing in that similar role that Amari played. More so maybe coming off the edge a little bit too, but no, just a guy that anytime you can get a guy that's seen, that's played in the Big Ten, seen big time football, played against that level of competition, solid depth piece. I think with it'll be interesting to see because we've added new pieces to this linebacker room, and it was a big question mark going into this season, with Amari transferring and losing, guys that we had last season in power. So I have to tip my hat off to the staff and Lombardi and the scouting department for plucking this guy from, Big Ten country and bringing him over to the ACC. I'll be anxious to see how, my prediction was, more in that jack role, kind of like what Mari Gaynor was playing a couple seasons ago. Be anxious to see how he fits into Steven. The crazy thing to me about these breakdowns on any position is nobody knows like how anybody's going to be used. So we can like throw out predictions and kind of give, our thoughts on it, but it could be totally different come September 1st against TCU. Yeah. But, in my opinion, he's a guy that you like to have, coming in that you trust to go out there, to get you some meaningful snaps. So super excited to have Mikai over in Chapel Hill. I had to share my story of that guy at the beginning. I know I kind of went on a little rant, but that's it.
Good stuff, man. And and we talked about the Panthers earlier. His coach was Matt Rule, boys. Remember, he had a little stint with the Panthers. We won't talk much about it, but he's coming from that. But
I knew he had success when he came back to college. I just knew it. He is a hell of a Matt Rule is a hell of a college coach.
And then you see some of the videos of him with his guys, like the players. I saw one in the locker room, not locker room, like it was in the weight room, where like they're on their all fours, like doing some game, trying to like push on each other's shoulders. Like it looks like they're having a good time out there too. Like players enjoy stuff like that, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. We touch on that too. He's been a part of a shifting culture at Nebraska. You know what I mean? That was a program that, I remember back in the day, Nebraska football. I mean, number one, that's probably all they have out there in Nebraska. No offense to any Nebraskans that are watching this, but Nebraska football is huge out there in that state. And I remember some of those Nebraska teams, man, just being freaking dogs. They were nationally ranked every year. And then they kind of fell off. So, he brings a mindset too of a shifting culture. It's a new era with Carolina. And he's been there. He's been through that. He knows what it's like to shift and to build something. So, anxious to see how he fits on the field, but all the other stuff you love to have.
Yep.
Hey, Tar Pit crew, thanks for tuning in today. You just heard a clip from a recent episode where we broke down one of the key position groups. If this episode hit the mark, do us a favor, like it, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. That kind of support keeps the podcast rolling. You can catch full episodes of the Tar Pit Podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Don't forget to follow and subscribe today. The Tar Pit Podcast is proudly powered by Untapped Sports Network. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Heels.